Hey, another Relics Radio Thursday night. You're in Colorado. I'm up here in Colorado in the north. And my co-host Tony's down south in Colorado. Tony, you got snow yet? We got snow coming in, man.
It's supposed to come in tomorrow, I think, right?
Yep. But it's wind. The wind is blowing like crazy. You definitely see it coming up over the mountains.
Wind was crazy today. We went out and moved the chickens to the December pasture. And then tomorrow we're supposed to get snow. So, yeah.
Yeah, you have a December pasture?
Yes. Yeah, we move them monthly. Is that called
the garage?
No, they're still out. They're still out there. Move them monthly to different ground. Give them fresh ground to be on. It's a nice thing to do. I'm a nice guy. What can I say?
The chicks dig you.
The chicks dig me.
You know how it is. How's it going, man? How's your week going?
Busy. We've got. I was thinking about it. I was looking forward to the weekend and stuff, and then I was like, you know what? We've got Eureka meeting tomorrow night.
We do. I'm gonna miss it.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna miss it.
Okay.
We got some stuff going on around here.
Okay.
Yeah, all kinds of things. I had a meeting going on. I have my company field party for all of our field guys. That's happening tomorrow, like a Christmas party.
Yeah.
And then Sheila volunteered me for something up north here, so I'm going to have to skip my company party and do this up here. So yeah, all kinds of things happen tomorrow night.
Busy week though.
This Sunday's the Eureka Treasure Hunters Club Christmas party.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to that, or are you not going to that?
No. I'm going out with the pew pew. See if I can put some geese down. We got 13 guys meeting together.
Oh,
I don't know how many dozens of decoys we're gonna have, all blowing on our goose calls and just trying to get them to come down. The spot that we've got, private property, and man, I'm not kidding. It's like these geese get up from the feeding fields, and it just gets dark. It's so thick of geese, but we got to get them to come down. That's the problem. So we're hoping more guys, more decoys. More goose calls. We'll see.
Sounds like a party, man.
It's gonna be pretty good. We're gonna have a big old shindig, big feast, and we'll see.
Do you even have to aim or lead them or anything at that point when it's just darkening out the sky? Like,
you're
hold on a minute, guys. I got to shoot. Bang!
Pulling the trigger as fast as you can. You can put down 50 snow geese a day. That's the Colorado legal limit. 50 a day.
Man.
My wife's gonna kill me. I'm gonna come home Sunday with a whole car full of geese.
Well, just swing by here on the way through. You going up north?
I'll drop them off.
There you go.
All right.
Sure, my wife would dig that.
Yeah.
Honey, you need to go clean these geese for me. Thanks. Yeah. Who's in the chat? Hey, thanks for joining us here tonight on Relics Radio. I know we got some people rolling in. Who do you see?
Yeah, live with us tonight. We've got Ohio Relic Hunter coming in right away.
Yeah.
Mr. Bill Hayes checking in. Of course,
Bills.
This guy David Full Metal Digger. Sounds like a newbie.
He's a multitasker, I
heard. X marks the spot checking in early tonight. Yeah, was it last week? I think he came in towards the end of the show.
Yeah.
Good.
And look who just showed up in our chat.
I know.
Our long lost buddy.
We've got Beth Driscoll.
What's up, Beth?
She's got a Thursday off. That's our old digging buddy. She had to move and leave us, but I'm glad she's here listening tonight. Right. It's good to speak with her.
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to another Relics Radio. We got a great show tonight, man. We got a whole lineup here with us tonight. We're a reminder we're on Zoom, so we're all looking at each other. Those guys are chomping at the bit to come on. We should probably bring them on. We're going to be talking about, something that's pretty cool out there in our hobby, right? Like you can get out and dig yourself and find some cool things and enjoy the history and stuff. But when you can share it with a bunch of buddies and get together and kind of go do all that, man, I think it really enhances the hobby and the experience for sure. But nobody knows that better than our guest tonight. Tony, you want to go ahead and bring them on?
Yeah, title of this episode, Planes, Trains, and Relics. If anybody's seen that reference to the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Those aren't two pillows. Yeah, we're going to have to ask our guests about that tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, well, sleeping
That's ever
arrangements.
happened.
Anyways, we've got we're real lucky. We've got some big supporters of the show, and we decided to have them on tonight, talk about some camaraderie type stuff, and then all those digging adventures that they go. And we've got Full Metal Digger David Rose with us, Ill Digger Tim Blank, and then Metal Detecting Wisconsin Jeff Kjorlien. They're all on with us tonight, guys. Thanks for coming on with us. It's great to see you guys.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. So let's go around the room so people can kind of get the name to the voice. Since this is a podcast, later you might see videos of it, but tonight it's all audio. So Jeff, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick. Kind of let us know whereabouts you hail from.
Jeff, I'm in southeastern Wisconsin.
All
I
right.
grew up in the northern part of Wisconsin and cut my teeth up there metal detecting. Started in 1976 and moved down this area in 1988 and just kept on rolling with the hobby down here.
Yeah, excellent. How about you, Tim?
Tim Ildigger. I live in north central Illinois. I've been metal detecting since 2009.
Excellent. How about you, David?
Well, I go by the name Full Metal Digger. Long time ago, I was Daddy Digger. I've been detecting since 77, so Jeff's the only guy I know who's been detecting longer than me.
That's
And
excellent.
I live in southern Illinois, just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, on the Illinois side of the river.
Wow.
So we're all within about 6 hours of each other if we need to get together.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's great. That's great, and we're going to talk about that tonight.
Yeah.
I've heard a rumor that you guys tend to get together a time or two here and there, but yeah, that's awesome. Dave, you're also big claim to fame is at least what you say, at least, and I don't doubt it. Actually, I was just talking about this the other day. You think you coined the phrase "on to the next"?
I didn't come up with that claim to fame. People were saying it to me, a few years back. And when I first started making videos in 2009, there was probably only about 25 guys on YouTube who were making videos. And the first video I ever made was only 2 minutes long, and it got 314,000 views.
Wow.
And in I think February of 10, because I was trying to come up with a catchphrase when I would finish digging a hole, and like, what do you say? And I was like, well, I'm going on to the next, and I just started saying that.
Yeah.
Now, if someone can find a video older than that, February of 10, where someone says it, I'm all for it, whatever.
Yeah.
But now when I watch arrowhead hunting videos or bottle videos, they say on to the next.
And you get a royalty each time, right?
Oh.
Yeah. YouTube pays me a millionth of a penny.
Well, I was just talking with a guy the other day, and he was like, "Ken, how come you don't say on to the next in your videos?" I go, "Because I don't want to have to pay royalty to David Rose. He's going to sue me if I say that." And he's like, "Huh? Who's David Rose?" I go, "Oh, yeah, let me tell you the story."
That's funny.
Yeah.
Now he's the first one to do the thumbs up at the end of each one of his shorts.
That's taken off now too.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. You're a trailblazer there, Dave. What do you guys
Yeah.
think of those shorts?
It is.
Like them? Hate them?
They're easy.
I like them. They're easy.
Like them.
I love them.
because they're easy. Love
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Tony really loves them.
Yeah,
Well,
he does.
shoot, I've been
Gotten
watching
easier.
on Facebook. Man, Dave's putting out just incredible. I mean, you could just go to his page and watch for hours upon hours these 30-second little things, shorts, and every single time I'm just shaking my head. The one I liked today was it had the tree root growing through it. It was a flint striker, right?
Flint strike.
Yeah, Roman flint strike.
Yeah.
Gee.
Tree root growing through it.
A
And,
huge root growing through it. How cool is
yeah,
that?
yeah.
What a
And
unique find.
yeah, it is. And it cleaned up really well. And I was able to get the electrolysis on it and clean it by hand and not damage the root in any way. And when I did the soaking it in wax, boiling it wax, I did the root too, and it turned it a nice dark color.
Wow.
So yeah, I love it. It's a great relic. I got it sitting right over here on a little tripod.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Every time those shorts pop up, I get completely distracted at work.
Yep.
The other day,
Yeah.
my boss walked in. I was looking at one of his things. He's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Man, I got to look at this. Just give me a second."
And he doesn't just post one at a time. He might post like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I've
Hey,
only
you-
done a few of them. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to doing videos now.
Yeah.
If you
They're
got the
easy and a
footage-
short attention span these
Yeah.
days, man. People,
Yeah.
people dig them and stuff. You guys ever had one that's gone real big?
Just recently, yeah, actually from the hunt we're going to talk about today, actually.
Yeah.
Overnight, for whatever reason, I got like I think right now it's at 2,300 views, which is
Wow.
big for my channel.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Back when shorts first started, I started a shorts channel as a way of trying to feed people over to my main long content channel. And I, remember that, Tony?
It didn't work because it was you walking around the house wearing your boxer shorts.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell was going on.
They didn't relate. I tried
No,
to tell
I
you
was like,
that.
come on, it's my shorts channel. Like, these are my black shorts.
No one's
these are my
watching me
gray
in my shorts.
These are my rip shorts. So I made this shorts channel, and I don't know if you guys know Neil Colston. Right, he's a comic chef in Diggers Down Under in Australia. Been digging forever, find some amazing stuff. But he was out with his buddy, and I'd featured him on my channel all the time. And he ran into an eastern brown snake, which is like the second most deadliest snake in the world. And he was filming down at his coil as he was coming up on it, and it's kind of poor quality resolution, and you just see his coil swinging back and forth from top down, and you hear his buddy go, "O'Neill," and all of a sudden this thing goes whoosh, and strikes right up at the coil, and he's like, "Jesus Christ!" He's like, "Oh my God, that's an eastern brown snake," and he's shooing it back into its hole with his coil. And so I released that, like, deadly encounter type of thing as a short. That thing got like 400,000 views overnight.
Wow.
And all of them came from Australia. So I'd post them on my channel, and overnight, all these Australian views hit $400,000 views. I couldn't believe it. And then at the end of every video, I'd be like, "Hey, for more amazing views, check out Adventures in Dirt," and send people over there. But it didn't work out so well. And, none of my other videos ever got anything like that. Yeah. What happens? I got a few subscribers to that channel, and I really wasn't trying to get subscribers to that channel. I was trying to push everyone over. But yeah,
So-
I don't know how I feel about them.
400,000 views on that. How did you spend the 12 cents?
Right, I did. I sent it to Dave for the royalty because I was like, on to the next. Oh man. So yeah, hey, we titled this episode Planes, Trains, and Relics because we're definitely going to talk about, getting together with your buddies and hunting. Now, you guys have all hunted together, right?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. So you guys aren't too far from each other. You got Southern Ohio, Northern Ohio, kind of up further north. And so how long ago did you guys, what was your first trip, that you all decided to get together? Was it accidental? Was it on purpose? I don't care who wants to take it.
Dave, go ahead.
All right. Well, Tim and I met through an online forum called American Detectorist. And that was back in around 2012. And so there weren't a lot of people on there. And he was also from Illinois. And one time he called me and he said, "Hey, I'm coming down towards your area. My son's in a baseball tournament. Do you want to go detecting?" And so I drove a couple hours north and met him. That's the first time we met. And we detected a few times. And then me and some other guys from, all the Illinois boys, that's what we called us. There was 4 of us. We all decided we're going to go to Connecticut because we got to go back east where the real relics are. So we put together a trip with the back east guys from the American Detectorist Forum. So all of us drove to Connecticut and met there, and we did Massachusetts and Connecticut hunting. And it was a great week. I had a blast, but I hadn't met Jeff yet. And I had known him from the forum. He was on the same forum, and I'd certainly communicated with him many times over the years. He'd put pictures of his finds. I'd put pictures of mine. We'd message back and forth. And then when I went to England to Colchester in 22, that was the first time I actually met him in the flesh.
Ah,
September of 22.
very cool. And that was in England, you said?
Yeah, it was at Colchester. Tim had invited me to go to England with him. There was an empty spot that had come up. And,
Well, I was trying
I'm
to put
thinking hammer and silvers, I'm going.
I was just trying to put a group of guys together that I know that were hardcore enough that weren't going to whine about a 10-hour hunt, for 7 days in a row. Because there are people who like to detect, but they want to go sightseeing too. Well, that's not what I go over there for. So that's kind of the guys that I knew wanted to kind of have that same mindset. So I know I asked Jeff, that's what he goes there for. He's there for the relics. He's there for the detecting. Same with Dave. So
Yeah. That's something that I think hits people square in the face when they dream of going to England. It's a dream trip for many, many, many people. And when they get there, I guess depending on the group you go with, right? But the groups we go with generally, same way. It's hardcore, man. It is no joke. It's going to be a serious deal, and you're
Paying
out there
all that
all
money.
day. You're paying all that money. You may as well go for it,
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, you are really seriously almost injured. But you cannot wait to get back up and go do it again. But yeah, I think that smacks a lot of people in the face. I know that there was a group I was watching that was prepping to go over, and they went over, and I think they had some issues with that. They were like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, I knew it was gonna be tough, but I didn't think it was gonna be that tough. And but yeah, shoot, what are you gonna do? I mean, I've been in. I've only been twice. I've been in the spring both times. I've never been in the fall. Only been to
Fall is
spring
beautiful.
hunts. I dying to go in the fall just to experience there. Every time we've gone, the last time when Tony and I went,
Yeah.
it wasn't too bad. Like we had some weather, but it really wasn't that bad. We had mud to deal with. That's not good. But boy, that first time I went, first time I went with Dave and I was on that trip. The weather was miserable, man. That weather was just, we had it all. We had wind and rain and snow and hail and mud and wind. Ugh, it was pretty
Yeah,
bad.
we had the sleet, and I remember. I don't know if you remember the very first afternoon we were there. We were out in that big flat field, and I had my little Deus One, and the wind was blowing so hard that when I bent over, I sat my detector on the ground, and I didn't know to like point it into the wind like a boat, and it literally started tumbling across the field, and I was chasing it. And while I did that, I accidentally dropped my little container that I put my coins in, and it was blowing. And I was and I ended up chasing that stupid thing, that little coin
Jeez.
holder. I swear to God, I ran 1.5 miles to catch that thing. And so after that, I learned when I kneel down, point that machine into the wind so it doesn't blow.
Nice.
But that's how windy it was. It was about 45-mile-an-hour winds when we were there that first day. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
Jeez.
it was
The
crazy.
first time Tim and I went over there, we got stuck in the beast from the east. They called it one of the worst snowstorms in 50 some years in England.
Jeez.
It was during our trip.
It's just
East from the
Yeah.
east.
on top of the digging for that long during like 10 hours a day, that weather beating down on you, just wears you out.
Well, speaking of which, I mean, Jeff, he's in very good health. I mean, and he got out of his regiment a little bit while we were over there, and he ended up getting dehydrated.
Mm.
I mean, we're like you say, these long days. You got to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. And Jeff,
I lost 2 days of detecting because of that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You had to kind of take a seat and hydrate up, or did you end up on an IV?
No, that
Mm.
actually it was right when the beast from the east hit, and I wanted to go get an IV, but there was nothing. All the clinics were closed, all the roads were closed. I basically had to make my own homemade Gatorade kind of concoction, and luckily we had a bunch of bananas there, so got the potassium going with the bananas and
Wow.
nursed myself back to health.
Wow.
Serious business.
It
That
is.
it was a little scary because I'm over in a foreign country and you're really not feeling
Yeah.
good when you're dehydrated.
Right.
But
can't just go knock on some sheep farm and you're like, hey, you got any
No.
injections that you put
Yeah.
into these sheep that you
We're
can
on a
give me
sheep
for
farm.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, we're on a sheep farm.
Yeah.
What group were you with? The Colchester group?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's the same sheep farm, Tony,
Yeah.
where you
Well,
filmed
what
that
was it?
sheep being born, that lamb.
Tim, wasn't that Rabnus?
Ravnus Farm.
Yep, Ravnus.
I can't remember the name of the farm.
Me neither.
Did it have the moat?
No.
Okay.
Mm.
No.
Different farm.
Yeah.
I think there's more than 2 sheep farms over in England, so that would make sense.
Yeah, there's a couple.
That'd be terrible to get injured, man. I know that my friend Jeff Lubert just recently went over to England and he hurt his back while he was over there. And so
really?
he was down on his flat on his back and he has kind of a back issue and it flared up on him. And the same thing, Jeff, like he was like, I can't go anywhere. There's no place open, especially where they were way out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, he was bumming big time. He was texting me on Facebook. He's like, oh man. He's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And tomorrow we're supposed to be going to this field with these it's all Celtic and stuff there. You know how it is, right? When they tell you stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
I was pretty disappointed in myself for letting it go, not drinking enough and not drinking enough water.
Yeah.
And it was crazy the day that it actually hit him. When we got out of the van, you seemed fine. And then,
Yeah.
but that was also a day we had like 40-mile-an-hour winds. It was snowing. I seen something I'd never ever seen before in my life. Him and I were going across this field, and the wind was blowing left to right. And every time you make a swing to your right, because your coil is just scooting across the top of the snow, you push just a little bit of snow, and it create this little snowball. Well, the wind was blowing so hard, it would blow those snowballs
Oh.
30, 35 yards, and you could look back, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of snowballs, all the same exact size, and a perfectly exact line that you walked.
That you created and they tracked off.
That
Wow.
you, yeah, I wish I would have filmed that. It was one of the coolest
Wow.
things I've ever
That's
seen,
funny.
but
That is a cool experience.
I'm gonna take my gloves off.
I mean, I will say, like hunting in a muddy field or the snow. I mean, you're gridding it off, obviously, so you know exactly where you've been. So that's one of the positives.
That's
of it.
one advantage. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know that when I was over there in the muddy fields, because it was pretty muddy when we first got there. You get finished and you look back over the field and you just see tracks all over the place. It's such a cool look.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right, man. That weather can just wear on you so bad. I remember, Dave, when we were out there, we were at the that first trip. We were out going to a new field that had a Roman tumulus on it,
Yep.
and it was a brand new field permission for them.
Mhm.
They'd already cleared the tumulus and all that stuff. I mean, there was still kind of a little rise there, but they had an old map that showed exactly where it was and all this stuff. And Kevin from Potter County Diggers and I were back there. And we're leaning into the wind that's hitting us square in the face, and we're trying to swing, and we got the 15 pounds of mud on each boot. So it's trying to pull us over. It's trying to pull us down. The wind's pushing against us, and we're just like going into the wind, and then trying to get down to dig a target, and then your knee pads get stuck into the mud and sucked in there, and you're trying to get up, and then you're just like, man, this is miserable. But just keep trudging on, and then your buddy goes, oh, I got something. So now you're, putting down your
Recharge.
detector, trying to stagger over to him. And it really was like a stagger for some of those days where it was just like, man, trying to just dredge through it to keep the next, because the next swing, right, guys? The next swing could be it.
Yeah.
That little-
I know, as miserable as I was, when I got that first hammered Elizabeth I silver penny, and it was so tiny. I had a little pebble of dirt in my hand, and my pinpointer's going off, and I can't see anything metal. And this little ball of dirt was like a little tiny coin ball. And when I broke it open, I could see this little egg-shaped coin in there. It had been clipped down so much. But in that moment, my back quit hurting. I didn't care how wet I was. I didn't care how cold I was. All I know is I had found my first hammered silver, and I was gonna find another. If I didn't care if I spent all day. Everyone talks a good game. Well, if I spent $2,000, I'd be out there in a volcano eruption detecting. But man, when it's beating you down, a lot of people stayed in the barn that day. They didn't want to go out. So
I don't know what it would have to be outside for me not to go out to stay. I mean, for Jeff, obviously, for those reasons, physical reasons, but weather-wise, I don't know what it would have to be.
The next
Tim
day
and
was,
I will detect anything.
yeah, the next day was even worse. Four of us left the barn about 9 a.m. They all said they weren't going to go out. I paced for about an hour, and I said, that's it. Getting dressed, I'm going. People were like, "Oh, you can't go out in this." I said, "I have to.
Yeah.
We work in this stuff at work, at
Right.
home. So, I'm going. So I had about 4 guys follow me out there, and within an hour and a half, 2 hours, I was all by myself. It just, it was brutal. The chunks of dirt would freeze solid before I could break them open. As soon as you expose them to the air, they would freeze immediately. So I just got to the point where I was throwing chunks of frozen dirt in my bag. I brought them back.
Check
to the
them
barn
later. Thaw them out.
Yeah,
Put them in the microwave. Thaw them out later.
Wow.
He was putting them down his pants to warm them up.
Is that what he was doing?
Yes.
Well, I remember that last day, Dave. Remember, most people wouldn't get out of the van. It was
Yeah.
that field where the guy, here's what he tells us. He tells us, Georgia Buddy goes, I'll tell you what, if you're not going to hear very many signals in this field, but if you get a signal, it's going to be a gold coin. And so we were all ears up. Last day, we know they were kind of taking us somewhere special on that last day, but it was miserable.
Wow.
Snowing hard, colder than cold, miserable. And I'm just like, I'm out there. I don't care. I stayed out there the entire time we stayed there. And I got soaking, drenched wet and was freezing. And most people stayed in the van. Most people said, they were like, nope, it's just a little too much. But I was like, come on, guys. And no, I got lots of signals and I did not get a gold coin. So I want my money back.
Yeah, that field, that spill, that large hoard of gold coins was split between 2 lands. There was a boundary down the middle and there was a big tree. I remember that tree. And on the side of the fence that we had permission for, I think something like 30 gold coins over the years have come out of there. And on the other side, that farmer would not allow anybody to go in there. But I think Chris is the one who told me that he has eyeballed like 18 gold coins when he's out there farming. He sees them and he will not let anyone go out there detecting.
Wow.
He wants to find them all himself. But can you imagine if you could eyeball that many gold coins, how many
what's left
a
underneath
detector could find?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. Hey, we're talking about road trips. So if you're just joining us, welcome.
So you want
to
to get back to that original question before we got off on the England, but Tim and I met for the first time. We were on this another forum called DFX Only, and they used to do these annual hunts in Boy Scout camps. They did one in Michigan and Ohio and I think Pennsylvania. And anyway, Tim and I met out in Ohio for the very first time at a Boy Scout camp with DFX Only, and it was kind of a brief introduction to each other, and then we just kind of exchanged each other's information. He found out that his family lives close to mine, and we were only a couple hours apart. So then we hooked up and started hunting together, and we've been doing it ever since. And do you remember what year that was, Tim?
I want to say it was 2010 or 2011.
Yeah.
I mean, I was using my DFX, so that was 10.
Yeah, and I think I had the V3i. I had just gotten the V3i that year.
And by the end of by 2012, I think I was already had my E-Track, so I had me right there towards the beginning.
What'd you graduate to, Jeff, after that V3i?
I went to the E-Track.
E-Track.
So I used to follow the forums, and the V3I forum, everybody was always posting settings. You know, they were talking about settings and doing this and how they adjust it before they got started. And I don't know if you know that machine, but it was a pretty complicated machine. And I'd go on the E-Track forum, and all they're posting about is all these great finds they're finding and all the silver they're finding. I'm like, man, I got to look into this E-Track, and that got me into the mine labs.
Yeah.
I was kind of a whites boy from the very beginning in 1976. Everything I had was whites. I had owned one Garrett up to that point, but that was just a brief period with that Garrett. Otherwise, it was all whites.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody about that. I know a lot of people that use that V3I, and they really liked it once they dialed it in, you know. But
yeah,
then
once you dialed it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then but I know a lot of people that graduated to the E-Track from that too. I've never swung the E-Track. I've never even seen it or been in front of it. Sounds like a great machine. There's a lot of people.
Great machine technology wise, but ergonomically probably one of the worst I ever swung.
Why so?
It was just not weighted properly, balanced properly. It was really heavy. So I had a real bad shoulder when I first started using that. So I ended up buying what's called the swing thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah.
Basically the bungee cord. I ended up using that pretty much the entire time I had the E-Track. I swung it with a bungee cord.
Mm.
It worked great. Made it really light, and I used to use a big coil on there and never had issues. But then I had shoulder surgery after that. Now I have no issues, and now I'm the Deus too.
There you go.
Swinging a
complete opposite spectrum there.
Yeah, blows the wind.
Well, I went from the E-Track. I went from the E-Track then to the CTX. The CTX is like a boat anchor.
A boat anchor, right?
Even heavier, yeah. But it was better balanced than the E-Track. So.
Now we're all swinging the Deus. We got together a couple weeks ago. We all went up to southern Wisconsin, and Jeff had some amazing permissions lined up for us. I don't want to give away where we were, but the place we were at probably had about 50 acres, and it goes back to 1842. And it was just beautiful, manicured grasslands with giant oaks and elms and whatever kind of trees there were. And it was just crazy. That was that black dirt that's like cutting butter. You know, it's just so easy to dig. We were just all three listening for the faint, deep signals because this place has been detected before. And we all kind of, you know, how you get there and you're like, well, I'm going to start here. I'm going to start there. And I'm like, and I said to Jeff, because there was frost, I said, is the ground frozen? Jeff takes his shovel and drives it in about 6 inches. He goes, no, it's pretty soft. Wow. So we all start off, and next thing I know, I see Tim's over there filming. I mean, I haven't been there 5 minutes, and Tim's already filming something. Yeah. So I'm trying to scream obscenities so that it will ruin his video. Then we kind of split up, and I'm going to say after about 40 minutes, I got my first silver. It was a Rosie, which was okay. And then I got just a nice little penny signal. The mount on my Deus broke where the control box attaches to the stem. So it broke when I was in Germany a few weeks ago. And so I had the control box in my shirt pocket. So I was not even reading the numbers. I was just going by the sound. And so it sounded like a nice little penny. And I dug down about 5 inches, and it was the size of a penny, but it was thicker. And it looked like praying hands. And since we were near a church, I thought, well, this must be like a religious token. And I turned it over, and it said 1 cent, and it had that wreath. I couldn't believe I had found a flying eagle. That has been a bucket lister of mine forever. And so I'm screaming and running, and I'm trying to find where these guys are. You know, I'm making them look at it and everything. And so that kind of started everything for me. That site was good. I ended up with 3 bucket listers that day, but I'll let the guys tell their stories, and I'll just jump in with mine as we get into it.
Well, the third hole I dug while we were there, I think Dave was actually still walking towards or kind of swinging towards where he was going to start. and I think I dug a piece of foil, maybe a pull tab, and then I got kind of a wonky. Yeah, it was 80 something on the dais too, so I don't even know what that equivalates to, but it sounded good enough to dig, and it sounded like Dave was saying, we're kind of listening for those deeper, iffier signals, so it kind of fit the bill. So I said, for sure, I'm going after this one. I dig down, and like you said, it's that super dark, rich black soil, and when I busted the clod open, you could see that silver laying in that super black in that soil, and you know that's silver. That's silver. I know it is. And it turned out to be a sterling silver bracelet with the name Mary engraved into it.
Oh, wow.
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 So, I mean, that's how my morning started out.
Yeah. My morning started out, I had just a banging, like mid 90s, going into the low 90s, and thought maybe I was going to get a clad quarter, and ended up being a nice big silver man's ring. With
Oh, wow.
like a signet ring, but it didn't have the engraving on it.
Oh,
And then
wow.
probably like 6 feet away from there, I got another low 90s, and I popped it open, and I could see a glint of gold. And I thought, well, those numbers don't match what a gold. It was another ring, but it was like a silver plated or gold plated
Silver. Yeah.
Wow.
silver or something like that. But yeah, that was how my morning started out.
Phew. You guys are thinking this is gonna be great. This is gonna be a great
Yeah.
day.
It
So
did turn
we,
out to be a great day, and I had another permission lined up, which I was chomping at the bit to get at. I spent maybe only an hour there just to check it out, to make sure it would be worth going to, and I wanted to go there. So when around noon, we said, well, let's go check out this other place. And Dave's like, when you're catching fish, you're not supposed to move, because we were doing pretty good there. We had a really good morning. So we went there, checked that out, and we were only there about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Then we came back to the other place, and I think Dave and Tim made a couple of other nice finds. I had a mediocre day, but I had found some fantastic finds on this site already, so I wasn't too disappointed. I just wanted those guys to have a good day.
Yeah. Sounds like
Yeah,
they
Jeff
did.
was like, yeah, I'm gonna take you to this cornfield. I did a lot of research, and there was like a horse racing track back in the 20s here, and so we got permission, and we go there, and we're swinging around, and of course I was grumbling because, like you said, you never leave fish to go find fish, and but I get there, and my first good signal was right on the surface. They had cut the corn. It was a mercury dime. Then I got an Indian head, and Jeff's like, oh, okay, all right, that's enough. Let's head back to the other spot. Tim got an eagle button. He got a Civil War eagle button.
Yeah.
And so we ended up going back to the first spot. And actually, I'm glad we did, because after lunch, we were going up, and Jeff and Tim had been there before a couple times where we were at, and they'd found a bunch of silvers in a heavily iron infested area. A lot of nails, and so a lot of silvers. I think they probably got like 17 or 18 silvers out of a very small area. So I was kind of working on the edge. They were over there, and I got a banging signal. I mean, banging. And it was so tiny. You know how when you get a signal that's real tight, but it's high pitched? And I thought for sure it was a silver dime. I mean, that's how it sounded in my headphones. And it was showing like 10 inches deep. So I dug down. I was right next to a sidewalk. I dug down, and it's gone. I can't find it. I'm swinging all over. I've got my probe in the hole. I know it wasn't my imagination. And I looked down, and right next to my knee is a little black disc. And I'm like, oh, it must have flopped out of the hole, and I didn't even see it because it was right next to my knee. And I thought it was going to be an Indian head because it had that darkish green color, and it was thicker, and I wiped it, and I saw this Liberty head that I've never seen before. And it reminded me, those nickel 3-cent coins, that the one that's made of actual nickel, but it's a 3-center, has that funny looking Liberty head. It had the same head, but the size was wrong. And I turned it over and wiped it, and I realized it was a Civil War card. And on the front, it said 1863, and on the back, it said shoes, boots, and leather, Kenosha, Wisconsin. It had Han Miller, I think, was the name on it.
Wow.
Hans Simmons was the proprietor. And you know how when you find something and you've never heard of it and you do your research and you learn so much more?
Yeah.
So when I tried to research this token, it looked like John Simmons, but it was Hohn, Han. That was his name. So Simmons might sound familiar to you, especially if you've ever bought a Simmons Beauty Rest mattress. Well, they're also made in Kenosha, or that's where their factory originally was. So that's like his brother. So like he had one shop and he was doing leather and boots and shoes. And this other guy says, well, I'm going to do mattresses. And it just all went from there. But that was my second bucket lister of the day because I've never found a Civil War card. And this one was so well preserved because that soil at that place.
I was going to ask you, does that soil really preserve relics well?
Yes.
Yeah,
The
some
detail
beautiful
was
coins there.
incredible. And if anyone wants to go to the Relics Radio, I've posted all of these finds on the Relics Radio Facebook page. So you can go back and see those and you can see for yourself how nice that store card looks. But to, you know, two bucket listers on a day like that, I mean, that makes your whole weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little did I know there'd be a third one later on, but we'll get to that.
But I would have done the same thing. Like those kind of finds make me jump right down the rabbit hole, man.
Yeah.
I would have finding everything out about that Simmons character. And like you said, you discover that his brother and the family and what that turned to. Oh my gosh, that just gave me goosebumps listening to that story because I absolutely love stuff like that. I love stuff like that.
Those Civil War card tokens, there's over 3,500 varieties of those that were made, which I didn't really know that either until I don't know, was reading something about when Dave was doing his research, and yeah, it's amazing.
That's a lot, man. That boggles the mind. That's a lot.
I think I have about 10 of them now. I think.
Yeah. How many are the same though? I think I've got probably at least 8, but I probably got 6 of them are probably from the same store. You know.
Yeah.
I found one when I was in Vermont. I found one from New York. All the ways to find one. But
it's a little bit, that's pretty cool. And a friend of mine just found an artillery button, artillery eagle button.
Yeah.
And he was like, what's that doing there? And he's kind of looking around and he knew where he was hunting and he kind of like knew he had some old maps. You know, those old maps that they not only show the plots, but they show like the name of who owned the land. You seen those old plat maps? Well, he had a plat map on it. So he had some names on the plat map and stuff. And he went searching back there and just searching. All of a sudden he sent me a link and he's like, check it out. And he found an article about people from that area being called up to be part of this artillery regiment during the Civil War. And the person that he was on their plat is listed in this division that for the artillery. Like he totally nailed it, totally paired it up. And we were like, oh man, like that's gotta be it. Like, that's gotta be it. It was his property that he owned and for artillery and he was in the artillery. And, I guess we could have had a regiment come through there or something, but man, it just blows your mind when you can make some connections like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I have several of my farm field permissions that had old home sites on them, 1850s, 1860s, and I've probably gotten, I don't know, a dozen coat buttons, cuff buttons, Civil War, which you wouldn't think you'd find in Wisconsin, but they were probably came back, and back in those days, you wore whatever clothes you had, so they're probably still wearing their military clothing and lost a few buttons.
Wow.
And Tim found an amazing find on one of my permissions.
Oh God, yeah, I did.
You can tell him about that.
Yeah, what's this?
Well, so like he says, these soldiers were bringing their uniforms home with them, coats, and their belts. And I found an officer sword belt plate in Wisconsin. I mean, so you hear about people down south where all these battles took place, finding them, or in these winter camps or these campsites or dump sites or pits or whatever. Here we're wandering around a cornfield in central Wisconsin, and I get this like $50 signal. I thought it was just gonna be a piece of copper pipe. It's just an old home site. And I dig down, and this square piece of brass pops up, and I can just see. If you've ever seen the belt plates, you know what those tongues look like. They're very distinct. So I
Yeah, the
seen
puppy
that.
paws.
Yeah, the puppy
Yep.
paws, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and when you see that tongue, I was like, oh, no way. There's no way. Is that when I called Jeff over right away. I said, you got to see this, man. You got to see this. So I waited until he got over there, and when I flipped it over, it still had the big cloud of dirt stuck to the front of it. So when I was peeling the dirt off, I was expecting to see US on the front. I was expecting it to be like a general service plate. But when I popped it off, it had the eagle and the talons with the arrows and the palm leaves. I was like, oh my Lord, that's an officer's belt plate. It's just overload.
In Wisconsin.
It's
Yeah.
running overload. Yeah. And I had a slow day up until that point. I really hadn't found much all day. And it was getting within an hour or two of, end of the day is almost over with. And here it just grand slam. Boom.
I could go for a slow day like that.
You're right. Wow.
Um,
Walk into the car with your head hung low and all of a sudden, bam. there it
Right.
is.
Boy,
That's
yeah. You're on cloud nine the
Farm
rest of the
recorder.
day.
Yeah.
yeah.
You found any plates up there, Jeff, in your neck of the woods at all?
I have
ever?
never found a plate of Civil War. Got buttons and the store card tokens and
And
no mini balls.
What's on the back of a box plate? So it's not similar to the puppy paw backs. Are they just like a pin? You ever seen the back of those box plates for the like ammunition cartridge box plate?
Those
Aren't they lead filled?
Lead filled.
Yeah, lead filled, right?
Lead filled.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about when you go detecting with friends, and if you've ever invited someone to your permission, you always hope they make the best find. There's no jealousy in it at all. You think, oh my God, they drove all this way. I don't want them to not find anything. So, and Jeff was so gracious sharing that site with us, and he was so happy that, we were making good finds. And, he said he felt like he didn't do very well that day, but I beg to differ, because at the end of the day, we took tailgate pictures, and his pile looked just as good as everybody else's. But he was genuinely happy that Tim and I had done well. He really was.
No, that's what my biggest concern. Every time I invite somebody, I want them to be successful.
Yeah, and that says a lot. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's a great attitude to have. I know Tony and I feel the same way. Like, we've both experienced it on both sides, right?
Yes.
We've invited people and really wanted them to find something, and they have, and we've just been so tickled. And then we've also been the persons that have been invited and have found some things. And you find the person that is invited you is just as excited. You know what I mean? So it all goes around, and it's cool when you can surround yourself with people like that and stuff. That's for sure.
When you can build that trust amongst them, and you know that they're not going to nighthawk on you or
Right.
come back there on their own, things like that, then that's a special feeling, and you want them to do well.
Yeah.
I had Zach from Great Outdoors Detecting. He's out in Kansas now, and he was visiting out in Colorado with his family, just doing some vacation stuff. He said, "Hey, I'm available this day," and so I took him up to an old mining town in Colorado, which is there's a lot of those. That's what kind of started the settling, besides gold, but that's what settled in Colorado. A lot of silver mines, those kind of different things. And we're up on the side of this hill, and he had a great signal and dug it, and it was a miner's tag. And he said, that is the only thing that I wanted to come back from Colorado, because it screams Colorado. And it was in beautiful condition. Said the mining business, or the mining company that was there, with a number on it, and it's a absolutely incredible tag. And he's like, that's the only thing I wanted to find. And he left like floating. That's all he wanted to find in Colorado. And I was just so happy just to be there to see that. And
Yeah.
to see him,
Yeah.
it just meant the
It's a
world
great
to him.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. And then he turned around and invited you to one of his permissions.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've gone out there and found some incredible things too. Kansas, and then also north of where we're at. Yeah.
Like yellow shiny things.
Got some yellow shiny things.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. So you guys this trip that you were talking about was just a few weeks ago?
Yeah,
Or
it
is
was
this
in
back?
November. It was in November, I think second weekend of November. We had also gotten together the previous year about the same time too. So it's just kind of a once a year thing. And, eventually I'm going to get these guys down here by me. I just don't have as much interesting stuff down here. Sites to share is, up there is a little bit more older and more exciting, but I definitely plan to have them down. Just got to line up a few permissions and stuff. And then I'll worry that they won't find anything, Like, oh, thanks a lot, Dave, for bringing us down here for wheat pennies.
Tim, why are you shaking your head?
Because I believe Dave actually probably has older and better stuff down by him.
I feel the
Dave
same way.
Dave
That's like the
actually-
gateway to the West.
Yeah.
Like he said, he lives near East St. Louis, which is the gateway to the West. Everyone funneled from the East Coast through his area to get to this gold rush you guys are talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, but they came down the river. They came down the Ohio and the Illinois, and it was all river travel. So
I mean, there's got to be a slew of them that said, this is close enough, far enough.
yeah,
Far
it
enough
could
for
be.
me. Far
Could
enough for
be.
me.
That's right. Get off the boat. We're going to just hang out here. So when you guys do research, do you guys generally do that? Like I know Tony and I do this a lot too, where if you find some old maps, you do some overlays, you find those old house sites that are now in the middle of fields. Those are some of our favorite places to hunt.
Yes.
Is that kind of what you
Yeah.
guys are looking for too?
Yeah,
Exactly what I'm looking for.
my
Church.
favorite.
Every once in a while, you'll come across an old church site or a schoolhouse, but lately the two counties that I mainly detect in around here. I've detected every old school site that I could get on,
Right.
and now I've switched to homes, which there are a lot of homes,
A lot more homes.
especially a lot more homes, a lot more of our fields. They used to get 40 or 80 acres and a mule, and then they plop their log cabin up, and so yeah, those are the ones I'm looking for.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, they can produce for sure, especially if they're
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere.
You
I know.
don't find like a large quantity of stuff,
Mhm.
but when you do find something on those sites, it's usually good. Nice buttons and buckles and crotal bells and
Period. stuff.
occasional
Yeah.
occasional old coin.
Right.
Yeah.
When you do find a coin, it's 1800s, and
Yeah. That's what I like about that is because anything you find on those sites, it was like, pretty much necessary for those people that live there. Like they
Yeah.
relied on
Right.
Yeah.
every one of those little instruments that you find, whether it's a token or a buckle. I mean, all that stuff had meaning and not always easy to get, especially if they're out in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
like they cherish that stuff. I mean, once they moved on and it became abandoned and all that stuff, they'd moved on to other things. But yeah, while it was in operation, while those things were being lost, and yeah, you just think about those times and how important all those items were. Even things like Tony and I were hunting this property up north here by me, and I came across some old white Tootsie toy doll furniture, like for a little girl. Just a little tiny, armoire and refrigerator and stuff. So
wow.
I don't know. It was probably 40s, 50s, something like that. But still, it was like, man, that was pretty important. Probably that little girl or whoever was playing with it, for it to be out there in the dirt, a couple inches down, just underneath the dirt that have built up around it. And I love finds like that because they're so personal, And you find something with a name on it, right? Like Mary, right, Tim? Like, that blows my mind when I do that.
Yeah, when I first found it, I kind of cleaned it off, and I find a lot of Jeff's signet ring. They're not engraved. I found bracelets before that they're not engraved, so I was low. Keep my expectations low when I found it, and when I gave it a wipe, I go, "Yep, plain. No, it's not engraved." And then when it just kind of rolled on my finger just right, and the light hit it. I go, "Oh, wait a minute." Kind of spun around. I said, "No, it is engraved." And it almost kind of looks like its hand scratched in there.
Yeah.
And it says Mary.
Yeah, you know how when you find something engraved, you can tell by that old script if it's like 1800s or whatever. And
Yeah.
like that ring that Jeff found, it doesn't have any initials on it. It's a beautiful signet ring with the shield for the signet. But that thing looks 1890s to me all day long. It just looks that old easily.
That
Just
not having a stamp on the inside too leads me to believe it's very early.
Yeah, I think it was 1906 or something like that when they made a law in the U.S. that you had to stamp precious metals.
Right.
I was studying the maps down here, and a lot of Germans settled in my area. In fact, most of the towns around here have German names, like New Baden, which is Neubaden, and things like that. And I was studying this 1875 map of the county, and it said there was a little square block, and it said number 7, school number 7. So I tracked down the owner, and the guy was like over 90 years old, and he was still farming. Guy, I couldn't believe it. He's just a farmer. And he said he actually went to that school until they closed it in 1942. And he said his grandfather's the one who gave that little chunk of land to the county to build that school. He carved it out of his own land because the older school down the road was dilapidated or whatever. So in 1870, that school was built, and it was in operation until 1942.
Wow.
And the guy, Mr. Virgin is his name, he said when he went there, everyone spoke German. No one spoke English until World War II broke out. And when World War II broke out, everyone overnight quit talking German and they switched over to English. So I'm out in this field, and everything you find is going to be older than 1942.
Wow.
And I was finding, barber dimes, Indians, buffalo nickels. And I was walking along, and I seen a little tiny, tiny white leg, like a porcelain leg sticking out of the dirt where the rain had washed it out. And I thought it was going to be like a doll leg. And I picked it up, and it was an entire little white doll. It's only about 1.25 inches tall. And I was like, well, that's a weird eyeball find. It was white porcelain. So when I did my research, I went down the rabbit hole, and I learned all about frozen Charlotte dolls. So
Wow.
Frozen Charlotte dolls came about in the mid to late 1800s, and it was a cautionary tale about doing what your mother told you. So Charlotte was a girl who was invited to the winter ball, and she was going to ride. And of course, it was the 1800s. It was an open horse sleigh, and her mother wanted her to wear a coat, and she didn't want to because it would wrinkle her dress. She wanted to pull up and everyone to see her dress, and she froze to death on the way to the ball. And it's probably not a true story, but it's a cautionary tale. And so it was a German tradition to put in your Christmas pudding for your daughter a little frozen Charlotte doll in the pudding. And so I had this image of some girl emigrating from Germany, bringing that doll with her, and then losing it at that school. And then I pick it up more than 120 years later. And it's by far my favorite eyeball find. And when I went to Tim's house to visit one time, he shows me this. He goes, I don't know what this is. And I said, it's a frozen Charlotte doll.
Yeah.
And he goes, I've never heard of that. And I said, well, let me tell you. And so, but it's funny, like Ken says, you go down that rabbit hole and you learn so much stuff you never knew. And they made a little boy version called Frozen Charlie. So I'm sure right now people are Googling Frozen Charlie
I
doll.
just am right now.
I just Googled it. Are you looking the same thing I'm looking
Oh
at?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
So mine
now
is
I
actually
know.
the smallest
Now I know.
version. It's only about 1.25 inches tall, which I really like that. They did come up to about 3 inches, I think.
Well, it looks like the Frozen Charlie ones, just because of the cold weather, it looks like the Frozen Charlies are smaller.
Mm. This thing I found says Frozen Charlotte, the creepy Victorian era dolls that slept in coffins and were baked into cakes. And then there's a poem. There's a poem that goes along with it. And then it shows this one little doll in this coffin, and it just says, "Don't talk so much" on top of the coffin.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that's a little politically correct. What do you say? It says, yeah, oh my gosh, it just goes on, and I could read you the poem, but it's pretty crazy.
Can you imagine traumatizing your little child with a doll in a coffin?
Yeah, no, you're like, don't talk too much. Only speak when spoken to.
Or you'll be in the coffin
Or
like
you'll
Charlotte.
you'll be cold like Charlotte. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Now I know.
Well,
Interesting.
Next month,
yeah, it's
next
so interesting.
Interesting.
Christmas, it's in the pie.
Right. Crazy. I'd never heard about that. See, that's why I
No.
love our hobby right there, guys. Exactly.
Learn a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you just learn so much stuff.
Yeah.
Wait till I tell my wife later tonight. I'm gonna be like, hey, don't be a
Don't be a
don't
frozen
be
Charlotte.
a frozen Charlotte. I'm gonna have fun with that one. Oh boy. So you guys went we talked about this trip up north to Jeff's, but I know Dave, you and Tim recently went to Germany.
We
And
did.
Jeff, you've been there before too, Jeff?
I haven't been to Germany yet.
Haven't been to Germany. Just
Dave's
England?
going to get me there someday, probably.
Oh, aren't you
Yeah,
dying to go?
yeah, we're
Aren't
actually
you
going to
dying
talk
to go?
about that. No, but we all went to England together. That's where we met Spencer.
Mm.
We talked about that previously, but I was in Germany in October. I spent 9 days in Germany and had a blast. And you saw all my shorts. I found a beautiful medieval spur, and my best coin find in a long time was that big 1662. It's the size of a $50, and it's got old Leopold on it, old Hogmouth himself. You know, he had the facial deformity and stuff. And yeah, that coin, I got it on a little tiny pedestal all on its own. Now I'm gonna have to put little LED lights around it. Copy Tony.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Very cool. So when people talk about getting together, buddies and stuff, what's the farthest you guys have ever driven? Is it just up and down to each other's states, or have you guys, besides England, have you guys ever driven somewhere across, be invited somewhere else like Florida or up into Maine or anything like that? Colorado, hint, hint.
Well, like
No,
Dave was saying,
Tim and I went to Connecticut a few years ago.
Mm.
We shared a hotel room, and
Yep.
when you're detecting all day long, you sleep really good at night. It's like I'm taking a shower, I'm going to bed, you're out. That's the end of it. But
Yeah.
I think that's the farthest we've ever driven together. We went in
Yeah.
separate vehicles, but yeah, Connecticut. That was like a 2-day drive for me. But
Wow.
of course, you had to stop. I stopped in Ohio to metal detect. You can't just. How many times have you guys been driving and you see an old farmhouse and you're like, oh, I can't wait. Maybe someday. Well, I was like, hey, I'm on a detecting trip. I'm going to stop,
Today's the day.
I don't know if I'd ever make it to Connecticut because I'd be
Yeah.
stopping every 10 miles.
Pennsylvania
Yeah.
was tough, man.
Yeah.
I want to go to Pennsylvania.
And New York.
Yeah.
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 We flew into Vermont on our way up to Chase, New York for Pound the Ground in 2019. Jeff and I did. And Jeff, we rented a car and we landed in Vermont. And we started heading to the ferry to go across Lake Champlain. And every household, every property, we were like, we're going to door knock that one. We're going to door knock that one. Like, oh my God, look at that plantation. Like, oh, look at that, farm field. Oh my gosh. Every single place we just wanted to go. So we thought we've got a bunch of time. After we check out our hotel, our plane didn't leave till real late in the day. So we thought on our way back, we're going to take the ferry over, get into Vermont, and we were just going to go hit as many places we can hit on the way to the airport. And then that day it was just torrential downpour. And we were like, we didn't feel like going out and just getting soaked before we go sit on a plane. So we were like, we didn't do it. But I'd love to go back. I'd love to dig that part of the country again. And like you guys said, Pennsylvania is my dream to kind of get over there.
I'm looking in the chat, and Ohio Relic Hunter says, stay out of Ohio, Dave.
There's nothing in Ohio, right, Bill? Come
It's
on,
all
man.
hunted
No
out.
It's
one
all
knows.
hunted out. Don't even stop.
Well, Bill invited me. So maybe I'll bring
See, all those detectorists in Ohio, they said on to the next too much, and there's nothing left.
That's it. On to the next and the next and the next, man.
Tim
Yeah.
and I went out to dig stock mini, the first one, and
Yeah.
Tim drove out and I flew out, and then he picked me up. But I didn't want to. We were going to have the whole day on Friday before the dig stock event to detect, and I didn't want to take the chance of not having a place to go. So I got on my research and did research the area we were going to be in, and ended up finding us some properties to detect. But driving wise for me, it's mainly down to Illinois. I've been in Michigan once and out to Ohio, but yeah, I kind of stick in my little area here.
Yeah.
Do you guys find yourself when you're making plans to, go to visit family, or you're going to different things, you end up researching to see what some old sites around wherever you're going?
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah.
just absolutely hilarious how we just focus on that? You get it in your mind. Hey, I'm going to be 2.5 hours to the north. Whoa, what's over there? Maybe I can, stop on the.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Zoom in. Yeah.
That's exciting because I'm just like, man, anytime like I have to go anywhere, like, so let me see. So my corporate office headquarters that I don't go to very often at all. I used to back in the early days, but I've been with the company 15 years and it's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And so I actually, I've only been detecting for 8 years, something like that. Tony and I started at the same time.
Yeah.
And so back when I was going back and forth for training to the corporate office, I wasn't into metal detecting. And so I'm kicking myself in the butt because now I'm just waiting for the next opportunity. I get to go do some training back in Lancaster because I got a ton of people I can call up that are real close to there, and I'm sure they can put me on some property. And then plus I know there's probably coworkers of mine that work for the corporate office there, all these support people that work in that office that I'm sure have old farmhouses that are attached to their family somewhere. And I'll just send them all a message and be like, hey, I'm coming to
Yeah.
town. Who has a 200-year-old property? I want to put me on somewhere around there and see what I can do. But any place we go, like we're going in March, we're going to my wife's niece's wedding in New Jersey. And I'm already thinking, okay, how many extra days am I going ahead or behind to that wedding? Because I got a lot of people I know in that area too, man, that I know I can, definitely let them know I'm coming and get a chance to go dig in that part of the country, man. Any place I get a chance to go, I'm always excited, and I'll do the research or try to hit somebody up that I know in that area.
I've been taking my machine when I go on a family vacation too now. So when we go to like tropical, we're going to Punta Cana again in March. So I'm bringing the Deus with. So when my wife is sleeping in the morning, then I'll hit the beach. Get up early and hit the beach.
I was gonna say, do you get a hard time?
Yeah. No, she's pretty good about it. She knows I like to go out, so I just spend 3-4 hours on the beach in the morning while she's still sleeping, and then the rest of the day is with her.
Yeah. It's a win-win. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got her last time we were in Punta Cana, I found a wave ring in the water, and she's been wearing that ever since.
Yeah.
About 3 years now. So she gets a little bit of benefit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Find a ring. That helps things for sure.
Yeah.
My wife and I like to cruise, so we were going on cruises, and the last cruise that we went on, I'd never been to South Beach in Florida. So we cruised out of Miami and went a couple of days early, and we stayed in South Beach. And I was like, I'm bringing my detector, and she's like, come on. She goes, let's just concentrate on us. She gave me the speech. And so I was like, all right, I'm not going to bring it. So I was thinking, same thing, Jeff, get up early in the morning, before you wake up, hit the beach. And, so we got up, we had breakfast, went out to the beach. So we're sitting out there in the beach. And what do you think I saw? About 80 yards off, man, here he comes, some old guy with a detector. And I was like, I bet he's got an extra one in his car. So I went up there and made friends with that guy real quick, man. And I didn't get to detect, but one of these days we'll go on vacation. I'll bring it. Like, I didn't know what the rules were like in, St. Martin and stuff, some of the places we were going. But you ever done that, Jeff? You ever done it out there besides Punta Cana? And
Just South Carolina in Punta
Mhm.
Cana. I
Yeah.
think Tim's been in Mexico with his. Jamaica too, I think.
No,
Jamaica.
yeah.
You able to
The
do it in Jamaica?
Yeah. It was really easy. I mean, that was the first time I ever flew internationally with a metal detector was Jamaica before I even went to Germany.
Mm.
And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really do barely any research really on packing what you had to show. But back then, nothing had built-in batteries, so basically all you had to know was keep all my double A's and my 9 volts in my carry-on, so I was good. But yeah, they didn't even question me at the border coming in or going out or nothing like that. And at the resort, I got more questions than demands. I mean, the staff was asking questions like, "What is that thing? We never seen one before." And
Really?
what's it do? I had one of the staff members. He says, "What's it do?" And I said, "It finds metal." He goes, "Metal?" He kind of gave me a kind of weird look. I go, "Yeah, like coins or jewelry." And he holds up his left hand and he has a gold ring on his hand. He goes, "Like this?" I go, "Yeah, like gold rings. Like if you lost that, I could find it." He goes, "If I put my ring in the grass over there, you can find it." And my wife was standing next to me. I just kind of looked at her, smiled, and I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Turn around." So he takes the ring off of his hand and he goes, "You watch him, make sure he does not look." She goes, "Okay." And she's just turn around. So I turned
Did he
around.
really?
Yep. And he walked off in the grass just over the curb a little bit and waited a couple of seconds. He goes, "Okay, my friend, turn around." So I turned around. He's standing over. There's a curb, and then on the backside of the curb was this grassy patch. And I only made about 4 or 5 swings, and when you hit a ring that's laying on the surface, it's a screamer, and I could see it as the machine is making noise, and
Yeah.
I went to go bend over to grab it, and he bent over before I could get down there. He snatched it up real quick.
Yeah. I bet.
Finders keepers, come
That's
on.
it. Hey, if I
Yeah.
find it, I keep it, right?
That's
Yeah,
right.
but he was really impressed that it really worked. He said he'd never seen one before.
Wow.
Mm.
I bet you the week after Tim left, that guy had bought a little bounty hunter at a pawn shop because he's thinking, the touristas, they lose rings all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
He's probably out there with his little scoop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, "Manuelo, get back to work."
For a day, and then he found all the pull tabs. And he said, "This thing doesn't work.
This sucks.
That guy was pulling my leg."
Little does he know I was already on the beach all week long, cleaning it out.
Just vacuuming him up, man.
Yep.
When I was in Punta Cana, I had one of the workers come up to me and followed me around for a while. And then he had another worker come over because somebody had just lost their ring like the day before. So they did everything they could to try to put me in contact with that person to find the area. And I never did hook up with the person, but I was really hoping to find it. I know Chicago Ron, he does, where's he called? Aruba, I think it is, Tim, right?
Yeah, Aruba.
He just did a ring find when he was down there beach hunting his last trip.
Mm.
So they do come up to you, people, when you're on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in Jamaica on my first trip, I had an older couple come out to me, older retired couple, and this guy comes up and he had his shirt off. He goes, "I almost came up and had to get your attention earlier." I was like, "Why is that?" And actually, he had his shirt on, and he goes, "Because I lost my necklace. And I was hoping you could find it for me." I was like, "Necklaces can be kind of hard to find." He goes, "Yeah, it would have broke my." And as he's telling me this, he's reaching down in his shirt. He goes, "I would have broke my heart if I would have lost this." And it's this great big rope chain, and it looked like a $20 gold piece hanging off of it. It's a
Wow.
massive gold medallion. I was like, "Holy moly!" I said, "I probably would have fainted if I would have found that thing."
Oh man.
So did he lose it and he just found it himself is what he did?
Yeah, he set it on his little table, and him and the wife went out and waded around in the water a little bit. And when he came back, he threw his towel on the table and he thinks it knocked it off, and it fell into the sand out of sight. So when he got up to leave, he was looking for his necklace and he started panicking. He goes, right here. He goes, hopefully maybe it just fell down here in the sand. He's kind of raked around with his fingers and he found it,
Oh, wow.
But he goes, as it was happening, I was thinking, there's a guy down the beach with a metal detector. I'm gonna have to go grab him. You know?
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, holy cow, that thing would have, I would have freaked out if I would have found that thing. Massive.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Hey guys, we got a question in the chat I want to make sure that we get to. Beth Driscoll is asking, what's the oddest thing you've ever found? And they've answered their own question so far in the chat. So but I'm interested to see what you guys, the oddest, most unique.
Oddest. Wow.
Yeah.
Besides the frozen Charlotte, that's pretty odd. What do you guys think? Who wants to take it?
As far as metal detecting finds, my oddest find was Jeff invited me up to a permission. If you've ever read any of his posts, watch any of his videos, you hear him talking about the Grove. It's one of his go-to places near his house. And way back in the woods, there's a spot where he and I found it's for whatever reason, I don't know if it was a campsite or what, but the oldest items that we've found on this property have come out of this one little section in the woods. And I was back in the woods in that section this day, and I got like this deep quarter signal. And I'm thinking, okay, this is probably going to be a seated quarter. The stuff that we find back there is that old. There's a really good chance this is going to be a seated quarter, so just be careful digging this hole. So I dig this hole, and I get down about 8-9 inches, and it's down there. And I'm getting, slowly going out with the pinpointer. I don't want to nick it or nothing. It's pinpointing nice and tight, and I finally take the knife, and I just stick it in there on the side, and I flip it over, and I seen this silver flash about the size of a quarter, and I was like, oh, it is. Come on, Pump. Please be seated. Please be seated. Please be seated. And I took my thumb and I wiped it off, and it had the name of the crematorium it came from. So it was a crematorium tag. I don't know if someone buried it back in the woods, or someone spread some ashes back there a long time ago. But yeah, I seen that, figured it out, and I was like, this was probably not lost here. This was probably left here. So it's going to stay here, and it's still there. Unless Jeff has went back and dug it up since. Right?
No. I had a similar find on that at that same site. You could definitely tell that it was a buried memorial type thing with some charms and other items that were in the hole. So I just reburied them, but I buried them deeper and deep enough to where if somebody else ever gets permission for that, which I doubt if they will, they won't be able to dig them up. But it was obviously there for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, there's enough lost items that are lost. Like this, I believe this was actually left there, placed there. So
sure,
it's still there.
That's pretty odd.
How about you, Dave? What are you thinking?
Well, one time we had permission. I was with Don and his son Alec, and it was one of those little like early 1900s homes with a big yard, and then a detached little garage, which was probably built in the 40s when they finally got a car. And the driveway was those two little skinny strips of cement. You know how they would do that, where it goes, and they drive up. And so I was detecting between the two strips of cement, and I had this dime signal, but it was really deep. And I'm digging and digging, and the dirt's getting yellow. And it was black, but now it's yellow. And then I started seeing hair, and it was Fido. I had dug up Fido, and it was his collar with his like 1938 dog tag. And I remember thinking, there's still hair after all this time. The hair is still down there. It hasn't rotted away. But yeah, so Fido. So I put the tag back down. I didn't put it in my collection. I figured it should stay with Fido or whatever his name was. But yeah, I remember thinking, why is that dirt yellow? What's all this hair?
Wow.
Yeah.
I got creeped out one time thinking about that as I was digging a target, to the point that I just stopped digging it without ever finding out if that was it or not. We were in Oklahoma, Tony, for that event, and we had that one permission on that corner house. That guy, he was really cool. Remember, he's out there on his porch talking to us all about it. And I was over by the fence by that other property we got after that, and I was digging down. I was after target, sounded really good, and I'm down in the target, and I hit pottery.
Oh yeah.
Thick pottery. And I started chipping away at it a little bit. It was, I had already broken it, whatever it was, or maybe it was already broken. All I know is getting these shards up, and I kept swinging my coil over it. I kept getting this really great signal. Now that I've opened the ground up, it was still really nice. And I'm like putting my pinpointer in there, and I'm trying to dig around in there. And then I saw a glint of something, and I'm just thinking, is this an urn? And my mind started going to that place where I was like, is this an urn that had like a pet in it? And this is going to be a collar or something. Like, I didn't think it was like a pottery full of coins in the middle of Oklahoma, but I was like, I just buried it up. I said, I'm not going to investigate that anymore. Like, something hit me where I was like, I probably shouldn't investigate it anymore. So what do you guys think? Did I blow it? Did I blow the pottery full of gold coins?
Yeah. Absolutely.
If I had that gut feeling, I probably would have did the same.
Yeah, it was a major gut feeling, man. I just went, nah, not going to take this one.
Denny in the chat said that sounds like the time someone dug up a horse at Digging in Virginia.
Did they? In Digging in Virginia? Wow.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they dug up the horseshoes because it was on its back. Horseshoes up.
Yeah, Beth just reminded me in the chat, we were out digging what we used to call the Button House. It was kind of a little mini military camp that we came along here in Colorado, an older military camp. We had finds from probably 1855, 56 plus, that type of era. And we found all kinds of stuff, all kinds of stuff, even like period forks and knives, a little thing area there.
I had a civilian cufflink.
Yeah.
In this camp. So it was civilian. It wasn't military. Civilian. Something completely different.
But I got these signals, and I was like going down after it. And if you ask Tony, he'll tell you that I go after really small stuff. Like I will chase.
Ken will detect
for a percussion cap for an hour. Like
2 by 2, 2 foot by 2 foot. He's there for an hour and a half. He's the most. He can get so meticulous. It's so inspiring.
We were right in this area, real near to where we found like a lot of the forks and knives, and we're like, okay, here's where they were eating. Okay, over here, a bunch of underwear buttons, and full shank eagle buttons. So there was like just and same thing. Our soil here, Jeff, is pristine. It really preserves those relics. And I started finding needles,
sewing needles.
And how they survived that long, I have no idea. But they were old because they were only about an inch and a half long, or inch and a quarter long. They weren't very long at all. And I thought they were pieces of wire, but they were too perfect. And I was pulling them out, and they were barely coming up on my pinpointer. And I go, there's another one. There's a video of it on my channel, as a matter of fact. I'm like, there's another one. I'm putting them on my hand digger, and I'm just down there meticulously sifting through this dirt. And I give them to Beth and Tony, and they're looking up, and all of a sudden they're able to see an eye hole through the end of one of them. And they're like, these are needles. Like, how did that survive in that soil that long? I mean, the soil is gentle to them, but it was just amazing. Like, I was just sitting here for like 20 minutes digging these needles out of this ground in the areas where we're finding eagle buttons and old underwear buttons and all kinds of other stuff there. So it was crazy. Crazy find.
Yeah. That's hard to believe.
I thought you were saying you're going to find those needles on the surface.
Yeah.
The reason I thought you were going to say that is back to our trip.
Yeah.
Speaking of finding something on the surface, David just made a nice find, and I was underneath a big, I think it was a big elm tree.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So I go, hang on, I'll be right there. So I stand up and I get another signal, but it's super loud. I can tell whatever it is, it's right on the surface, but it sounds like a coin. I said, well, it must be a penny right on the surface. I'll grab it real quick and I'll see what Dave's got. So I grab my pinpointer, basically just rake some leaves away, and I could see this big coin laying there. It almost looked like a large cent to me, but it was super slick. I was kind of doing this number, and I was like, no idea. Rubbed it a couple of times. I was like, I don't even know if that's even a coin. Could it be just a copper slug or something? So I just threw it in my keeper box. I went over to go see Dave's find. And we were sitting back at the truck later, and we're all going through our finds. And Dave goes, "What's this in my box?" I go, "I don't know. It's like it looks like a large cent, but there's nothing. I don't see anything.
It's
on
smooth.
It's smooth. I don't
No
see
detail.
anything on it." So he's looking at it, and he goes, "I can see something on there, but I don't know what it is." So he flips it over. He goes, "Man, this side's really, really smooth." And he flipped it back over. He goes, "Dude, I think this is a Liberty cap." I was like, "No way." I mean, that's not even on my radar here in the Midwest. So I kind of leaned over it. I go, "Oh my Lord, I think you're right. I can see her cap." He's right. So we pulled it up on his phone, and for sure, 100%, no ifs, Liberty cap.
Jeez.
Wow.
Liberty cap large cent in Wisconsin. And after, you know how when you look at it, and we got a little side light on it, that's the key.
Yeah.
It's the side light.
Yeah,
And I could tell it was a right facing bus, and I was thinking a KG3. He goes, "But look how thick it is," and it was really thick. And even though it was worn, it was still thicker than even an average large cent. And so I got it just right in the side light, and then I took a picture on my phone, and of course you zoom it in, you can see the cap behind her head. I can make out part of the L in Liberty, and they only minted them from 1793 to 1796, and I can see the 1 and part of the 7, and that's it. And the back is completely smooth, wiped, nothing there. And the site we were at dates back to the early 1840s, so it's not out of the question that a 50-year-old large cent was in circulation and was dropped there, and that tree root had pushed it up because it was real close to the tree. But like Tim said, that's something you find back east. You would never expect to find that in Wisconsin or Illinois ever. So that was one of the best finds of the day. I mean, that's just crazy to find a Liberty cap large cent this far west.
I got it in my box. I'm walking around with that. I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing. Great find.
What? And I walked up on you with what, Dave? What'd you have in your hole?
Oh, yeah. They had some buried electric cables. There was this large common area. Think of like an old college campus type environment, big rolling grass, big trees. It's mowed, and they have some buried power lines. So every time I'd get closer to those power lines, my machine would start picking it up. And so, on the dais, I'm changing frequencies, trying to get out of it, but I can't. And I thought, well, I know other detectorists have been here, and I wonder if these lines would have driven them away. So I just gonna bite the bullet and just try to tune out that humming. And I got a pretty good signal right in the middle of all the electrical interference. And I dug down, oh God, it was 9 or 10 inches. And I pulled the plug out, and I see something kind of golden down there. And I'm like, what is that? And I pick it up and I turn it over, because at first I thought it was like a quarter, but it was kind of a golden white color. And I turned it over, and I could see this big eagle, a big shield, arrows, stars, and olive leaves. And it was a 1870s staff officer's button, just slightly post-Civil War, but it has the Scoville back mark. And I hit it with lemon juice for like 5 seconds, and it just shines up. And the picture's on the Relics Radio Facebook page. That was my bucket list item number 3 of the day. Just because how many times have I said, you find too many eagle buttons? I don't find any.
I know.
There you go, your eagle
button,
Dave.
When we were out in that cornfield and Tim found that eagle button, goes, "Hey, Jeff says, hey, Tim got something. Go ask him what it is." And I'm like, I don't like the sound of that. I'm not asking him anything. So when I found that big, huge, it's a coat button. It's big. It's like a little over an inch in diameter. It's just beautiful. It's not dented. It's in perfect condition.
Wow.
Gold gilt all over it. Just amazing.
Down, right, Dave? We're thinking it probably fell face down, preserved.
Yeah.
The building.
And you know how when you find something that leaves an impression in the dirt, you could see the impression. The button was face down, and you could see the eagle and the little arrows and the stars in the impression in the dirt down in the hole. It was crazy.
I love
But
that.
that's, you know, that's why it was in such good shape, because it was in the ground face down. So the back is what got all the bad weather, not the front side. Yeah, but I have that picture of Tim's a Liberty Cap large cent. I'll post it later on the thing on the Relics Radio Facebook page, so all the listeners can look at it too and see what we're talking about.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not on Facebook, but thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, go over and check out the Relics Radio Facebook group if you're not a member.
Yeah.
Head on over there. Dave's been putting a lot of stuff on there. Some great things. A lot of other people too. People have really been active on that group lately, and we appreciate it. You know, earlier Buckle Boy in the chat said it, and I'll reiterate it. Dave, congratulations on that Flying Eagle scent, man. That's, you know, especially here in Colorado, it's a very special find for us here, and to hear about anybody finding one of those is it's pretty cool. Congratulations.
About a month previous to him finding that, I found my first one.
Did you?
On a farm field where I had found no coins, just relics.
Oh
and I got my first coin off there, and it was a Flying Eagle. After
was it obvious, or do you really have to?
No, it was obvious.
It was
pretty nice condition. It really didn't. Normally, you find those old Indians and stuff on a farm field, and they're pretty crusty, but this was pretty good shape for being in the field.
Man.
First one, how long, Jeff?
Well, that was the first one I've ever found. So since 1976 was my first Flying Eagle.
Everyone's doing it, Tim. Come on. Have you done it
know.
yet?
I've got 4 of them.
Do you?
Well, Tim's got trimes too, and I've never found a trime. That's another.
Tim, do you have that many?
I have.
Are you just pulling our leg?
No, he does.
I think I have three Flying Eagles or 4, but I have three trimes. 2 of them are broken. 1 of them's wiped, but they are trimes. But yeah.
And you have a 3-cent nickel too, right?
And a 3-cent nickel. Yeah.
Yeah. Never had one of those.
Wow.
I've never found a seeded quarter, if you can believe that. That's my white whale.
That's your white whale. Other seeded coins, but not a quarter.
Oh yeah, tons of seeded coins, but not a seeded quarter.
Wow.
Wow.
Got 1 seeded half.
Wow, seeded half. That's pretty amazing.
I don't have a seeded half either.
I got 2 of them. Not bragging.
Yeah.
I've got 0, no seeded at all.
So two other coins that Tim and I found in Wisconsin that I would think you'd never find here either is I had another permission that was like a stagecoach stop and a hotel and all. It has a huge history going back to mid 1800s. But first time there with Tim, he found a 2 real or a 1 real.
1 real.
Right? 1 real.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I went back on my own a few days or like maybe a week later, and I found a 2 real, 1797, and I found a cap bust half dime on that site, which are like amazing coins to find in Wisconsin.
Wow.
So you do your research, and you come across these sites every once in a while. And there were people here,
and I've
back in the day, but
each one of these sites that Jeff's talking about, that permissions he's got, have been metal detected before.
yeah,
Sure.
and they were detected before.
Wow.
And I thought I was digging a clad quarter when I dug a 2 real because it was only maybe 4 inches deep, and it was just banging. Like you'd just be digging up a quarter.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe what I dug up.
Wow.
That's what my radio sounded like.
It sounded like
A quarter? Screaming quarter. Screaming
Yeah.
quarter.
Yep.
you know what mine sounded like when I found it?
Crickets.
Crickets.
But you got a gold coin. You got a gold
The
coin.
gold coins sound like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
that?
again, it's hard to feel sorry for you.
There's no gold coins in this guy's collection.
Yeah.
mine either.
I was still can't believe it. Insanely. It happened, but man, I still can't believe it. It just was not. It was a fluke. It was just a fluke, man. I shouldn't have been there. I shouldn't have been digging that day. I shouldn't have been on that site.
No.
We've never found a coin in that area ever. And for that to come up.
We had been across that spot, I don't know how many times, the number of people across that. So Again,
Yeah.
it's Ken's meticulous searching that actually
It
pulled that
wasn't.
one out of the ground.
It was a
absolutely
fluke, man. It was a fluke.
No.
I was using a brand new machine that I hadn't put any time on, and the only reason I used it is because I was dead tired and I didn't want to quit and kind of punk out on people because I was so exhausted. Third day of detecting, I was just tired. End of the day, and so I saw my simplex there, and I didn't have very many hours on my simplex. I had used the T2 at that time, so I pulled the simplex out, and I go, I'm just going to swing this thing and start learning it. And I was just swinging it, and I was kind of looking at the signals and the VDI and listening to it, and just digging kind of anything really. And it was my third target with that thing. And I was digging it not because I thought it was a great target. I was digging it to see what it was. And I was like, oh my God. Like
it was something to dig, right?
It was something to dig. Yeah, it was something to dig. It was definitely a good target, solid target. Didn't sound like junk really. I thought it was probably a bucking ball or a pistol ball or something like that. And but yeah, blew me away. So, and we didn't get a lot of chance to talk about Germany, that trip much on this episode. But so we'll have to have you guys back. But end of the show, I'll give you guys all some kind of last statement or last thing you want to chat about. Anything? I'll give you guys the floor, and then we'll start wrapping this thing up. I appreciate you guys coming out. So, Dave, you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me on the show again. I always enjoy it. I like talking about treasure hunting. It's all I live for, it seems like. I'm just grateful I got good friends. All my best friends are detectivists. I kind of realized that the other day. And,
Mine too.
you couldn't ask for a better bunch of friends. And so, I want to thank Tim and Jeff for their friendship. And, I'm really wanting to come to Colorado for next July. Hopefully tag up with you guys, and I'm just looking forward to it. So thanks for everything.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Hey, Tim, how about you?
Well, that's hard to follow, but yeah.
Sure is, right?
Yeah, you said everything right. So I just want to thank you guys for having us on. It's always fun talking about metal detecting, and I could be killed an hour and a half already. We could probably go for another hour and a half telling stories and reliving the good times and the good moments. But like you said, it's those times and good moments are usually spent with good friends. So again, thanks for having us on.
Sure, man. Yep. Thanks for coming on. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, just same thing. Thanks for having us on. I'm glad I'm on here with Dave and Tim, two of my best friends. I did go back to that site this week, or this week. I went back there today, actually, with my friend Rob, the history digger. And he got a shield nickel and an Indian head penny. And I got a couple of Wheaties and a copper ring. So
still producing.
Still stuff there.
Wow.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, you guys, thanks for coming on with us and giving us your time tonight for sure. And if you guys are listening in, even if you're listening on the download later, definitely look in the description of this podcast. There's links down below for all three of these guys' YouTube channels. You can find Dave over at Full Metal Digger. The link down to his YouTube channel is right down below. Tim's over at Ill Digger. You can go find a link to his channel down below. And Jeff's over at Metal Detecting Wisconsin. You can find a link to his channel right down below. Go check out their videos and see what they're up to. We love talking about metal detecting. We love watching metal detecting videos and seeing what people are finding. And these are three really great channels. You need to go over and check them out. And if you like what they're doing, hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified when they come out with new content always. Tony, what do you got to say?
Just want to thank these guys for coming on. You kind of get focused on more so the finds at certain times, about trying to find this, trying to find that. But, just hearing these three guys talk and then, being on Relics Radio with you, Ken, every single week, it really makes me really respect the people that I get to dig with and having those friends. And it's not always the finds that you find in the ground. Sometimes it's the finds that you find with the support from other people. So Tim, Dave, and Jeff, just thanks for coming on tonight and really kind of driving home that point of it's not always the find. It's it could be the friends that you find it with as well. So, and if you want to see any of my content, I'm 5280 Adventures, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all over the place. Just put it out on the Google and you'll find me. Come check out my stuff and leave me some comments. I love talking with you guys. But thanks for coming on tonight, guys, and appreciate y'all.
Yeah. You guys want to hang out after the outro? We'll kind of say our goodbyes off the air if you guys got time to hang out. If not, you can split. That's up to you. But yeah, everyone, thanks for joining us for another Relics Radio tonight. It was great reading the people in the chat. There's all kinds of stories we didn't get to that they were chatting about over there. So keep it up. Join us next Thursday as we bring you another show here on Relics Radio. And if you follow me on my YouTube channel, Adventures in Dirt, get ready. I'm bringing back the Weekly Dirt, weekly Sunday show where I feature finds from everyone else across the YouTube spectrum and see what people are finding out there. So look forward to that on Sundays, the Weekly Dirt coming back on Adventures in Dirt. Everyone, have yourself a great week. Go out and dig if you find stuff. Make sure you let me know about it and go get the good stuff. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on the next.